Did you know that the now famous pub scene in Shaun of the Dead was almost filmed in an actual working bar until the owners realized their establishment would be overrun by zombie extras for days on end? They politely declined, forcing director Edgar Wright and his team to recreate the Winchester interior in a soundstage. It's the kind of detail that illustrates the clever blend of realism and comedy at the core of this beloved horror comedy gem. Today, Shaun of the Dead stands as a modern classic, blending British humor with gory zombie thrills in a way that still resonates nearly 2 decades later. How did this small passion project become a global cult sensation? Let's explore the untold stories behind the film that made us all consider using a cricket bat in the next apocalypse. 1. Idea started on Spaced. Did you know that director Edgar Wright and co-writer, star Simon Pegg, first toyed with the idea for Shaun of the Dead while working on their TV show Spaced? In one episode, Pegg's character hallucinates a zombie apocalypse, leading him to blast away imaginary ghouls. The sight of him frantically fighting off invisible undead made Wright and Pegg realize they shared a love for old-school horror. Sitting together after filming, they casually mused, "What if we took that zombie gag and turned it into a feature?" That spark smoldered for a while, eventually igniting into the comedic zombie adventure we know today. They wanted to pay homage to George A. Romero while also cracking jokes about the mundane routine of everyday British life. 2. Title spoofed, Dawn of the Dead. The film's title, Shaun of the Dead, is itself a playful nod to Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Pegg and Wright considered it a cheeky sign that the movie would lovingly spoof zombie classics while never taking itself too seriously. At one point, they toyed with other puns, but nothing felt as catchy. As soon as they tested Shaun of the Dead on a few friends, the reaction was instant. It was hilarious, irreverent, and signaled exactly the kind of comedic horror they planned to deliver. So they locked in the title, then spent the rest of pre-production hoping Romero wouldn't mind their comedic borrowing. 3. Pegg and Frost were real roommates. Nick Frost, who plays the lovable slacker Ed, was Simon Pegg's real-life roommate back in their struggling actor days. They built a genuine friendship over late-night gaming sessions and pizza deliveries, forging the banter you see on screen. Pegg once joked that the hardest part of filming those mate scenes was staying in character instead of dissolving into giggles about old in-jokes. Frost's comedic instincts had always cracked Pegg up at home, so filming was basically capturing that laid-back dynamic for the world to see. 4. Frost rewrote Ed as clueless. Interestingly, the Ed character was originally written as somewhat more competent, maybe a little better at handling stress. But Frost felt that making Ed an unapologetic slob who's borderline clueless about the zombie outbreak would amplify the comedy. He campaigned for Ed to be more of a comedic anchor, the type who drags Shaun, Pegg's character, into nonsense rather than helps him out. The writers loved it, revamping Ed into the ultimate couch potato best friend. That shift turned out to be a masterstroke, giving the film some of its funniest scenes, like Ed's casual approach to battling the undead. 5. Wright rehearsed every gag. Director Edgar Wright is famous for his meticulous approach to shot planning. Shaun of the Dead might look like a breezy comedy, but behind every gag lurked a well-rehearsed and precisely timed setup. The iconic long-take sequences, like Shaun's oblivious walk to the corner shop, ignoring half-eaten neighbors shuffling behind him, took days of rehearsal. Wright insisted on comedic beats landing at exact seconds, from an opening door to a passing zombie cameo. The cast admitted it was exhausting. One slip-up, and they'd have to start from scratch. But once perfected, the results were comedic gold. That single-take style also set Wright apart as a comedic director with cinematic flair. 6. Zombie extras were recruited fans. Most of the zombie extras were actually fans recruited through the website of British comedian Chris Martin. No, not the Coldplay singer, but a lesser-known humorist. Those excited volunteers happily shuffled around in tattered clothes, layering on fake blood. For many, it was a dream come true to moan and groan on camera. They had no illusions about the grueling nature of wearing sticky makeup under harsh lights, but the chance to appear in a Pegg Wright zombie comedy was worth every sweaty minute. 7 Winchester Pub hid Easter eggs. The Winchester Pub, a centerpiece of the movie, gradually morphed into almost a character in its own right. Production designers filled it with subtle nods to Pegg and Frost's real-life favorite pubs. Tucked away among the pub signs were Easter eggs referencing lines from Spaced or earlier Pegg stand-up routines. A crew member joked that if you paused any shot in the Winchester, you might spot a new inside joke on the chalkboard or on a random poster. That lovingly detailed pub set gave the final showdown a cozy yet chaotic feel. 8. Vinyl scene spoofed music snobs. One of the most memorable sequences is the record-throwing scene in the backyard. As zombies close in, Shaun and Ed start flinging vinyl records at them like lethal frisbees. They pause to debate which albums are too precious to destroy, an in-joke about Pegg and Wright's own music snob tendencies. In real life, the production used real vinyl for dramatic effect, but rest assured, they weren't super-rare albums. According to the prop manager, they mostly used cheap second-hand finds, ensuring no Beatles' White Album or first-press Bowie discs were harmed in the making of that comedic carnage. 9. Moran improvised rude lines. Dylan Moran, playing the uptight David, improvised a handful of his most sarcastic lines. Known for his quick wit on British TV, Moran fit right into Wright's comedic style. He later joked that it was oddly satisfying to spew rude remarks at a group of his comedic idols, though he had trouble delivering them while drenched in sticky fake blood. Some lines made the rest of the cast snort mid-scene, forcing retakes. 10. Frost cracked up Ashfield. Kate Ashfield, Liz, found it challenging not to crack up when Nick Frost went off script. She recounted filming a tense confrontation in the pub, only for Frost to suddenly ad-lib a bizarre remark in Ed's signature deadpan. Ashfield had to literally bite her lip to maintain Liz's exasperated expression. Meanwhile, the crew behind the camera stifled their own laughter, trying to keep the shot. In a comedic environment like that, preserving character immersion wasn't easy. 11 Nighy played it deadpan. Bill Nighy, known for his dignified roles, was lured in to play Philip, Shaun's disapproving stepfather, because he craved a comedic challenge. He'd never done anything quite this silly. On set, he played the role straight, which ironically boosted the comedy. Everyone else was flailing about with cricket bats or zombie moans, while Nighy delivered stony-faced lines about responsibility. That deadpan approach made his scenes surprisingly poignant, especially the final farewell, where his character shows genuine affection. 12. Makeup aimed for subtle realism. The zombie makeup was intentionally subdued. Edgar Wright wanted the undead to look relatively normal, pale, bruised, and a bit gore-smeared, but not monstrous. The thinking was that everyday folks turned zombies would be funnier and creepier if they still looked like your neighbors, just slightly off. The makeup team used subtle blue-gray palettes, resisting Hollywood's usual lumps of latex or protruding bones. That understated look allowed comedic story beats to shine rather than overshadow everything with horror. $13.6 million budget pushed creativity. The film's budget hovered around $6 million, which wasn't huge for a project blending action, horror, and comedy. Wright and Pegg recognized they couldn't rely on big set pieces or advanced special effects. Instead, they doubled down on witty writing, slick editing, and well-timed gags. This approach gave Shaun of the Dead a scrappy charm. It felt like a group of clever friends pulling off an ambitious idea with minimal resources. In many ways, that do-it-yourself energy enhanced its cult status. 14. "You've got red on you" became a catchphrase. The phrase, "You've got red on you," repeated multiple times, became a running gag among cast and crew. It started as a subtle nod to the creeping bloodstains on Shaun's shirt, a comedic omen that the peaceful day had gone horribly awry. On set, if someone spilled coffee or sauce, others would whisper, "You've got red on you." It spilled into real life, sometimes turning up in Q&A sessions or fan conventions as a catchphrase. 15. Wilton loved the heartfelt horror. Penelope Wilton signed on as Barbara, Shaun's sweet mum, after reading the script and laughing out loud. Typically cast in more serious or refined roles, she relished the chance to join a comedic horror flick. The mix of heartfelt family drama and zombie apocalypse intrigued her. Wilton's gentle performance made Barbara's fate especially emotional, reminding viewers that even comedic carnage can have real emotional weight. Some fans consider her storyline heartbreakingly effective in bridging the gap between horror and humanity. 16. Cast trained for zombie fights. The cast spent weekends rehearsing fight choreography for scenes like the frantic skirmish in the Winchester. Simon Pegg had to quickly learn how to swing a cricket bat like he meant business. Pegg Frost teased him, claiming it looked more like a dance lesson than a zombie beatdown. But after enough practice, they found a comedic yet convincing style somewhere between actual martial prowess and comedic flailing. 17. Locals ended up in cameos. Many sequences were shot in a real London neighborhood, occasionally annoying locals. One day, a few neighbors emerged from their homes to watch the cast beat up zombies, only to see filming had blocked their driveways. The production tried to be friendly, offering them cameo bits as bystanders or quick-walking extras. Some actually took the offer, ending up immortalized in the film as fleeing citizens. 18. Shop walk, filmed after hours. The convenience store scene, where Shaun obliviously strolls in for a soda, ignoring the carnage around him, was filmed after hours in a functioning shop. The manager let them rearrange products, scatter props that hinted at chaos, then shoot all night. Staffers hung around the aisles, half in awe, half exasperated by repeated takes of Pegg slipping on puddles of blood. By dawn, everyone was delirious, but that comedic single-take shot was worth it. 19. Hidden cameos everywhere. Edgar Wright loves cameo appearances from British horror icons, and Mark Gatiss famously popped up in a fleeting cameo. Some cameo roles were so quick that fans only caught them after multiple viewings. This approach mirrored the film's style, jam-packed with references, from old Hammer horror to modern indie comedies, creating a layered experience for the eagle-eyed. 20. Routine scenes mirror zombie chaos. The movie's comedic brilliance partly arises from how it parallels Shaun's routine pre-outbreak with the day he's avoiding zombies. The daily walk to the shop, the bus rides, the greeting of neighbors. These remain the same, except now the city is overrun by undead. That comedic tension of, is everything the same or horrifyingly different, underscores the film's sly commentary on how we sometimes sleepwalk through life, ignoring big red flags or red stains. 21. Davis balanced two shows. Lucy Davis, who portrays Diane, was also starring in The Office at the time. She'd dash from set to set, occasionally showing up to The Office with faint red makeup around her hairline. Production staff teased her about living a double life, comedic everyday office worker by day, zombie fighter by night. Davis found it thrilling, though exhausting, and said it boosted her comedic range to shift between the styles of two distinct shows. 22. Cornetto Trilogy began here. Rumor has it the brand of ice cream Nick Frost holds is an indirect stand-in for Cornetto, which later appears more prominently in Hot Fuzz and The World's End. Officially, Shaun of the Dead started what's called the Three Flavors Cornetto Trilogy. While the cameo of that actual ice cream brand is more obvious in the sequels, Shaun quietly sets the foundation by referencing sweet treats to celebrate small victories. Over time, fans latched onto the idea that ice cream and comedic anarchy go hand in hand for Wright and Pegg. 23. Night shoots wore everyone out. Night shoots were brutal. The makeup team arrived at 8 p.m. to start zombifying extras, then filming might run until 5 a.m. Cast members grew so tired they often napped in corners. Nick Frost, known for being a night owl, tried to keep spirits high by performing impromptu stand-up sets. He'd hop on a box and rattle off jokes about the day's outtakes or reenact crew members' freakouts. Even with the humor, it was a test of stamina, especially for those in heavy zombie makeup. 24. Too-gory scene was toned down. Simon Pegg insisted that balancing comedy and horror required a delicate touch. One particularly gory scene was initially so graphic that test audiences recoiled, overshadowing the comedic tone. Pegg and Wright dialed it down, worried the film would morph into a shock fest. They needed the audience to laugh, not retch. The final cut was still bloody, but more in line with the comedic swirl they envisioned. 25. Romero quote honored in script. "We're coming to get you, Barbara," is a direct nod to George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. In that classic film, a character famously warns, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." Pegg, a massive Romero devotee, felt it essential to plant that line in. He hoped fans would appreciate it as a wink to the father of modern zombie cinema, someone whose work had shaped Pegg and Wright's entire comedic horror approach. 26. Slow zombies fit the comedy. The production team told extras playing zombies to do the classic slow shuffle reminiscent of older Romero flicks. A few younger extras tried sprinting or doing acrobatic leaps, but the directors gently told them to slow down. The preference for slow zombies was part homage and part comedic timing. Wright once joked that a sprinting zombie doesn't give the comedic hero time to banter or come up with silly strategies. 27. Romance gave real emotional weight. The romance subplot is more than a comedic prop. Edgar Wright believed that in a crisis, genuine love and loyalty surface, providing emotional depth. As the zombies close in, the tension between Shaun and Liz becomes more earnest. Some watchers are surprised at how heartfelt it gets, like when Liz realizes Shaun's frantic efforts to save her are fueled not just by comedic ineptitude, but by real devotion. That emotional anchor makes the comedic horror even more impactful. 28. Pegg and Wright cameoed in Romero's film. George A. Romero loved the film so much that he invited Pegg and Wright to cameo as zombies in his movie Land of the Dead. For Pegg, it was a dream come true, a full-circle moment from referencing Romero's classics to actually shambling around in them. They only appear for a few seconds, but that cameo is a testament to Shaun of the Dead's place in the Zombie Hall of Fame. 29. Paved way for funny zombie flicks. Some critics argue that Shaun of the Dead ignited the modern comedic zombie trend, paving the way for films like Zombieland. Pegg, however, humbly credits earlier comedic horror for clearing the path. He acknowledges that he and Wright just wanted to tell a funny, heartfelt story about everyday folks battling undead neighbors. Nevertheless, Shaun of the Dead's success undeniably popularized the notion that zombie flicks can be comedic, not just grim. 30 DVD made it a cult classic. The film earned about $30 million worldwide, solid for a modest British comedy. Its true power, though, emerged after theatrical release. DVD sales and word of mouth soared. Horror fans, comedy lovers, and even critics championed its witty script and lovable characters. People rewatched it for the hidden gags, recommended it to friends, and placed it on countless best-of lists. Over time, Shaun of the Dead gained a devoted cult following. Some call it a perfect blend of humor, heart, and zombie chaos, while others admire it for launching the so-called Cornetto Trilogy. In the end, Shaun of the Dead reminds us that sometimes you can find love, friendship, and personal growth even in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. The mundane aspects, like morning routines, pub hangouts, and petty arguments, don't stop just because the undead roam. That's the real magic. Underneath the laughter, the gore, and the pop culture nods is a heartfelt story about an aimless guy stepping up to protect the people he cares about. So, if you haven't revisited Shaun of the Dead in a while, maybe it's time to pop it in and see if you spot a new gag, or notice how the unstoppable zombies mirror our own stubborn habits that keep on creeping up. You might discover the film still feels fresh, precisely because it's not just about zombies, it's about everyday folks learning to face crisis with humor, kindness, and maybe a swing of a cricket bat or two. After all, as the tagline says, a romantic comedy with zombies. And who can resist that?